So, tell me about the stuff. Tell me about the stuff in the basement. What stuff?
Ryan, I saw Rocky 2, God, when I was a little kid, and I saw him chase the chicken, but I realized in all of my years, I've never chased a chicken before. So I just have arranged to do that. I put a random thing out on Facebook if anyone had a chicken I can chase and would let me do it. And someone said yes. So I plan to film that and then post it on my Twitter for the few Twitter followers I have.
All right, that's awesome. Yeah, Kyle chasing chickens. Like it. Well, let's just get rock and rolling here. We got a lot of things to cover, a lot of good news, a lot of news, some interesting stuff on the horizon. So
Oh
we'll
yeah.
we'll talk about what we got going on here, and this will be news to you actually about one thing. Okay, we're recording. Yeah, good. Okay, so for our Patreon listeners, welcome to the live recording. I guess this is what you're watching, so welcome to that. We want to thank our patrons. And speaking of which, we got a new one. Kyle, we got a new patron.
Ooh.
Yeah, his name is Chad Trower. He's emailed us a couple times. So Chad, thank you so much for donating to the show. Do appreciate it. I should have a sound bite for every time we get a new patron. You know, like a appreciate it drop from from.
Yeah. And you can have like new ones because he says it like in the different films or
Oh,
shows.
I'd have to claw through all the films. So it's been fun on Twitter. I just want to say, give a shout out to everyone on Twitter that follows us on Twitter. We'll get to that in a second. I guess, in generally speaking, I want to give a shout out to everyone that follows us on the social medias, who sends me messages, says that they appreciate the show, they like this episode, they've had some questions, and I've always said, or I've said in the past, that to kind of keep the podcast like show flowing, so we're not just like rehashing comments from the past, that if you want us to talk about you and your comment on the show, we're sticking to emails, because it's just easier for me to track emails than a comment here, a comment on the Facebook, a comment on Twitter, and some really good conversations have occurred, but they've already come and gone. So, and I always make sure that, me personally, Ryan, I interact with the Twitter people, I interact with the Facebook group people, even if it's just a like or a thumbs up. I always acknowledge and I read every comment. Even on YouTube, we get YouTube comments, so that goes for you YouTube listeners. I want to let you know that we do appreciate all those comments. So if that makes sense. So if you want us to read out an email from you and give you that kind of discussion on the air discussion, that's emails only, because it's just easier to track, and we don't get that many. So let's roll into the emails. So we have one here from Greg. This is the other Greg, by the way.
Other Greg.
Other
Got it.
Greg Nehan. He's actually one of our patrons. I think both Gregs are. Greg the first and Greg the other Greg are both patrons. Greg said, in fact, I know he is, because he got an early release of one of the episodes. So I'll read yours next. Greg, I'll read yours later. Sorry, go back to inbox. Ryan Gold. He sent us an email as well, and I think Ryan Gold's a patron as well. So thank you, Ryan. If you're not, then you should be, because you're a bum. No, I think he is. So Ryan, he says, hi, loving the Rocky Balboa coverage as usual. He says, I've just finished listening to the last podcast where you went over the training montage. He said, you mentioned how this montage lacks a little compared to the other films, and I agree. In all the other films, there's a transformation in the character during the montage. In Rocky 1, he says, he goes from not seeming to believe in himself to seeming like a strong, hungry fighter. Rocky 2, as discussed, trains like a bum, takes Adrian coming out of a coma to get him a kick up the ass. I love how he says a kick up the ass instead of just an ass kick, or a kick in the ass. But it's actually
I like
up.
it.
Up? Yeah, okay. Rocky 3
It
hit.
seems more jolting
It
than
is.
the other ones.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, just right up there. Rocky 3, his head is messed up with Mickey's death. Adrian has to straighten him out on the beach to get him to put his past behind him and go for it. And then Rocky 4, Adrian not on his side at first, but he doesn't really kick on until she joins him in Russia. So he says here, there's always been something in the way at the start of his montage that he has to overcome. Now, we did talk about, Ryan, you forgot, or you didn't say in the email, we did kind of hint, though, that Robert's visit to the grave and him wanting to join Rocky's team was kind of that change. I think it wasn't really emphasized, and it wasn't but it did happen. Like him getting his son to be in his literal corner and figurative corner, it was kind of like that Rocky win moment. But they just didn't make a big deal about it. That's how I took it in Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, yeah. It's very subtle in Rocky Balboa if it exists at all.
And I could just be reading too much into it as a Rocky nut.
I never thought Rocky Four he was that lackluster. I thought Adrian there helped him maybe kind of take it to the next level, but I don't feel like he struggled training prior to that.
Yeah,
I
he
feel
was.
Rocky Four was what?
Yeah, he was doing that training. He was trained pretty good, helping the horse out of the rut and stuff. He was doing pretty good with the training, but he seemed to kick into high gear. Like I don't know if he would have gone up the mountain had Adrian not been there.
Yeah, exactly. So where it's like Rocky Two, he was horrible. Rocky Three was horrible, like at the beginning.
Right.
Like it
When
was
he
just
was,
like people were getting really frustrated with him, right?
he was training in the House of Ill Repute.
Yeah, yeah. Or even when he went to train with Apollo, he was like,
Oh, right.
yeah, as Ryan pointed out in the email, he had to get straight down on the beach. Um, yeah, four I'd say is less. Four is also fairly subtle itself too. Like you don't really see him struggling too hard. I felt like he was at his best in Rocky Four physically, probably because his training was kind of a longer duration and it was intense the whole time.
Right. He goes on to say they could have changed it by making his son only come on board halfway through the training, but I think Stallone wanted to do something different, as this was going to be the last Rocky film at the time. I think he wanted everyone on board right from the get-go, so that the montage was meant to feel more powerful. But because there isn't a transformation, he doesn't have anyone he's close to not supporting him. The montage is just a bit of a filler that has to be put in. It's one of those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
you mentioned that you said it kind of felt like, oh well, it's a Rocky movie where he's fighting. We better have a training montage.
Yeah, no, I think that the email is spot on. Like, yeah, pretty much every training montage prior, it's interesting because he's overcoming something.
But his son coming on board to be part of his team and visiting the grave and saying that Dad, I quit my job. I'm going to try to be my own man. I think that was kind of. I think it just wasn't hit in your face moment, but I think it was kind of because it went right from that moment to the training montage.
Yeah, it was kind of Rocky Four esque in that like he would have probably trained okay had they not been there, but then um, now that his son's there, there's really nothing in the way now. Like you can be like kind of more fully engaged, but it wasn't like a huge transition where because like there was no expectation for him against Dixon, right? Like if he trained like sucky the whole time, probably no one would confront him because they think he's gonna lose against Dixon anyway. So.
Right. Okay. And then he ends it with here. It's one of those things where I don't think there was any way around it. I don't think it would have been possible for this training montage to reach the heights of the others. No.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, Rocky Balboa succeeded in many ways in kind of bringing back the Rocky franchise, closing it on a better note than Five did. But when it came to the actual montage, yeah, of all the things in that film, it felt a little short there. All right, thanks, Ryan Gold. Thank you very much for that email and supporting the show. As always, you're a wonderful supporter of the show online and with your emails. Gregory, the other Greg, he said, so the AJ Benza interview is out at the time of this recording, but he sent us this email a little while ago because our Patreons got an early release of that interview, and this was his email regarding that. He said, Ryan, just listen to your AJ interview. You hit a home run. Great interview. As an interviewer, you've been killing it over the past year. Well, that's very kind of him to say. It's funny that he says that. Maybe it's even been longer than a year. I think time is flying, but season 6, our coverage of Rocky Balboa, like season 6, we haven't done a lot of interviews. Like if you look back, I think AJ might be my first interview.
Yeah, but no, you do well in the interviews. Like you handle yourself, pretty well. Considering some of the people you've interviewed are quite, they've actually been in the movies, and that's a big deal.
No, it's great. I've been fortunate, and I like giving interviews. I as season 6 has chugged along and we're nearing the end of our coverage of Rocky Balboa, it's occurred to me we just haven't had very many interviews this season. I think AJ might be the only one, really, an actual interview.
I'm pretty sure that is the case.
Yeah. He says it's a pleasure listening to you as the straight man. I wonder what he means by that. I know what a straight man means.
Oh no.
Do you know what straight man means, right?
Me?
Yeah, like in film.
No.
Oh, what it mean? Well, I know what it means, but I'm just trying to think of what he means by me. I think what happens is when you and I are bantering and stuff, we kind of have fun. We're serious too, but we have fun. Straight man is like I'm trying to think. Did you ever watch The Cable Guy with Jim Carrey and Matthew?
Yeah.
Matthew Broderick's a straight man.
Okay.
So he plays it straight. He plays what you would consider just to be a normal person.
Yeah.
Whereas Jim Carrey is a nut. But
of course,
Matthew Broderick though does a great job, and you need the straight man in order for the Jim Carrey character in that movie to work. You can't have two cable men; it wouldn't be funny.
No, yeah, they cancel each other out.
Exactly. So I guess my interviews, he's saying that I'm the straight man. I let people just kind of do their thing, but I kind of just play it. I don't. When I give interviews, it is, I guess, a conscious effort, but I don't make it about me. I try very hard not to do a lot of talking. I've tried very hard to just guide. I want the guests to really talk and have whatever they want to say. I don't want to be. I talk too much as it is. When I have a guest on, I don't want me to. Okay, so that's probably what he says. While I enjoy the humor, okay, he brought this up here, and I actually asked him about it. I'll get to that. It goes, while I enjoy the humor on the podcast, when overdone, it can undermine the tremendous content of library that you have created through your tireless passion. Bravo, sir. So I think the other Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, I think English might not be his first language. And so I think, because no offense, Greg, but your grammar isn't that great. And so it's hard to understand what he meant by some of this. So I did ask for clarification. I'll get to that. He goes, listen. He goes, listen. I love it. So it says, listen. Okay, I'm listening, Greg. He goes, regarding the Creed franchise, more than ever, I think you need to cover it fully, he says, even if the coverage is less than flattering. Your observations and the view of the fandom is relevant and interesting. I now see through a different lens as a result of your sharing your perspective. You've really built a great body of work. Chapeau, the other Greg. So I think he must be a different language. Or English is not his primary language.
It's pretty well, though.
Oh, no, and I'm not insulting you,
Yeah.
Greg. Other Greg, I'm not insulting you. This just explains why I might not be clear on what you're saying. He says here, I said to him, thank you for your kind words and being a Patreon. Just to clarify, are you saying we do too much humor at times, or other podcasts do? LOL, sorry, I just take what you guys say to heart, because I do. I really take my listeners, because they listen to the show. He says, no, love the humor. You have a genuine comedy chops and the prerequisite gravitas to cover this incredible saga. So there you go. He's just observing that your content is more timeless and valuable if you continue to strike the right balance between the levity and the gravity. Stallone and Rocky have been punching bags for film. Stallone and Rocky have been punching bags for film critics and audiences for decades. So it's easy to take cheap shots at Caparez's stories, but they are the most timeless. To quote Robert from The Big Fight, everybody thought this was a joke, including me. Now nobody's laughing. Stay on them. Keep punching. That's coming up in our episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope we find the right balance most of the time. I don't know.
I think we do. Look, and he's right. I think we do. Because I don't think you and I, despite the incredibleness of our show, and the people that are Patrons, they'll see how much we don't prepare, because when I edit the show, I do edit out the pauses, the jokes that don't work, and what have you. And because Kyle and I take no notes and we have no preparation. I have a little bit of
no, I do no research prior to any of these at all.
And so that being said, but what I mean, but why I think we do that too is because we try not to, except for sometimes there are little bits where we do a little bit of at the beginning, but because Kyle and I think what we try to do, and this is what Ruben and I did too, was we want to talk about our feelings of the things as we see it. So sometimes jokes will come up just because we find humor in life and humor in what we're seeing, but we're not out just to slay. Like even with Rocky Five, when we covered Rocky Five, which is one of the most quote unquote disliked movies of the franchise, I think we gave it a lot of credit and a lot of good coverage because I didn't want just to attack Rocky Five as there's Rocky acting stupid. There's no, I don't know if that makes for an engaging discussion. But there was times that when he was being weird or silly, we talked about that and what that might have meant or why did Sly choose that way of acting. But we also talked about things that were good. Anyway, so thank you, Greg the other.
Yeah, all I'll say to that too is that it's hard to gauge that because with a variety of listeners, you're gonna have different preferences there, right? Like some might be like, "Oh, it's fine the way it is." Some's like, "Oh, I wish you put more humor in."
Sure.
Some will say less. So it's a balancing act.
No, it's absolutely fair, and we try. I'm sure there's people that hate our banter at the beginning. I'm sure there's people that. Well, look, we'll talk about Creed. It's one of my discussion points. I did write some things down here that I want to talk about. Creed. Okay, so you and I on our previous episode we talked about. Are we going to kind of roll into the Rambos? How do I feel with the Creeds? Because I admit at that time that discussion, I'm feeling anxious to talk about Rambo and John Rambo and the Rambo franchise because I really like Rambo. I really do. Rocky makes me feel emotional. The Rocky franchise touches my heart, absolutely. But the Rambo franchise touches my male geek out for action. Okay,
yeah.
I'm not a very testosterone heavy guy. I don't like. I like meaning I'm like guns but I love the Rambo franchise. I love the Rambo franchise. Totally two different characters. We'll talk about more. But that being said, I'm just excited to talk about them, and I'm not as excited to talk about the Creed films. I think I've made that very clear that though there's a lot to be loved with the Creed films, I'm not excited. And I almost hate to say that I feel like it's a duty, but I did do a poll on Twitter. And I did ask about, should we cover the Creed? Should we cover Rambo next? Or should we just do both? How we're going to do both? And the majority of the votes were both. It was first place, do both franchises. Just cover them both. But people wanted us to tie a bow on the Rocky franchise, then go to Rambo. So that's the overall consensus.
So we're going to... Are we counting Creed as the Rocky franchise? Though?
Yes, that was the thing. People do want to start. They I think more people than I think it was 1 and 3, or sorry, 2 and 3 people that voted anyways, and or commented said do Creed, do Creed, do Creeds. They want us to cover Creed.
Well, also Ryan, if you really want to do Rambo, we can do Rambo at the same time, but choose not to release it right away. That can kind of scratch your Rambo itch, but then you're not. It also satisfies the fans because you can play the Creeds at first, even though you're still recording the Rambos.
Yeah, that's an idea, but just for time wise, I'll just knock the Creeds out, and we'll do natural. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna cover certain parts. We'll play the movie through as we do, and maybe we'll just naturally, maybe I don't know. We'll cover the Creeds. We're covering the Creeds. We're doing it.
We're just gonna let nature take its course for how in depth we go.
Well, nature's
the chemistry with the Creed movies, and we could discuss them. We could discuss them and enjoy it. Then it might be longer, and if we just want to rip the Band-Aid off, then that's what we'll do.
And other Greg the other. Just so you know, my humor and my scathiness might come out a little bit more of the Creed films, especially when it comes to Bianca. Okay. If you want to follow us on Facebook, it's Going the Distance, the Facebook group. Follow us there, and people have been commenting and stuff there. So thank you to the listeners that comment there, and I always respond. Let's see who's following. Kyle, I think you have a couple new listeners.
I do.
Followers on Twitter.
I noticed that. I've been getting notifications on that, so I do have it open. Kevin O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Laughlin?
I think it's Laughlin.
Laughlin. Coffee lover, frequent spell checker, dad, husband, blah, blah, blah.
Nice. Welcome, Kevin.
Glasgow. Nice. UK.
Yeah, a lot of UK listeners, man. United Kingdom, thank you.
And another follower, Baz. There's this great video on his feed that I liked. it's like hashtag Creed 3. It has like this guy doing an impression of Mr. T, and he's like Clubber Lang's son.
Yeah, it's right here. I can play it for our, our
Creed,
right here.
Creed, Adonis Johnson Jr., whatever they calling you these days. Clubber Lang Jr., you know the name. I'm coming for you, and I'm gonna bust you up like my father would have done yours years ago. Creed,
Did
Man,
you hear?
that was great.
Did you hear that?
What?
Did you hear what I played?
Yeah,
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
yeah. It's like whoever did that did an excellent job.
And Baz is one of our patrons. So thanks, Baz. Yeah. Yeah, so he's following you. That's great. So if you want to follow Kyle and you follow us on, if you follow the Going the Distance and you don't follow Kyle, you're really just saying that you don't like Kyle. That's essentially what you're saying. It's essentially what you're saying.
Is the other Greg Aussie Greg 84, the Greg who we were just talking about?
No, he's actually Greg Nihon has his own account. What does he go by? Yeah, so he doesn't want to follow you. That's very telling, don't you think? It's very telling.
Yeah.
I don't think. Wait, is he following you? So which one do you?
Let's see who I'm following. Let's see.
No, Greg's not following you. Aussie Greg, I don't think that's him. If it is him, I apologize. Is that? No, I swear.
Am I
No,
following that?
no, he goes by Nihon. I know it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm following that other Greg, anyways. There's a Craig here. Or no, that follows me.
What's his name again on here? Oh well, I forget.
I don't know. We don't follow each other.
Okay.
I don't feel like I'm being snubbed or anything. If you don't follow whoever you are, don't follow me on Twitter. It's all good.
Well, you always say that, but I'm sorry. It's my job as CEO of Going the Distance.
Twitter manager.
All right.
I'm tweeting like a 9th grade pug that be pumping gas in Jersey.
All right, if you want to follow Kyle, follow Kyle. If you don't have to, you don't want to, but it's just my job to shame you. Speaking of shaming you, if you're not a Patreon, be a Patreon. You get early releases. But yes, every episode will be released as per normal. But the Patrons I do appreciate the early releases. I get positive feedback from that. It's really nice. They comment on the Patreon page and say, hey, thank you, and so thank you guys. But thank you, everyone's thanking everybody.
Well, Ryan. These are the kind of early releases that people actually want.
I told my mom not to watch the live videos, by the way. So, speaking of which, yeah. So Patreon, of course, if you're watching this video, that's one of the advantages of Patreon is you get to see what Kyle and Ryan are seeing on the screen. So it makes it a little bit cool. Like you see what we see on Twitter, you'll see the movie as we talk about it. That is one of the advantages, and that, of course, will never be released as a non-Patreon because the audio file will be going on the podcast feed. So the video only file, there you go. That's the one thing. Unedited, raw recording footage is Patreon only. There you go. The one thing. But the audio will be released. Lastly, this is the big thing. Kyle, this will be news to you. So Doug from Rocky Minute, Craig from Slycast, and myself from Going the Distance. As you know, we've done many episodes of covering Sly films, and we kind of created a YouTube page where we put those episodes on as well, called the Stallone Podcast Network, just where we threw on our crossover podcast episodes, okay? I had a revelation during the week where I'm like, we kind of do a network, but we're not really a network. Why don't we make ourselves a network? So how that's going to work for everyone is, think of your favorite channel, whether it's HBO, CBS, AMC, it doesn't matter. That is what a network is. A network carries programs. So right now, with Slycast, Rocky Minute, and Going the Distance, basically we have 3 shows of the same topic, but we're on competing networks in the sense that we're not pooling our resources. So what's going to happen is, don't change your dial. Don't change your dial. But on this feed, the Going the Distance feed, it's going to be renamed. Are you listening? It's going to be renamed. The show will not change. So if CBS is your favorite channel, let's say, you can watch Magnum PI and you can watch MacGyver, right? So
will the show change though?
Our show?
Yeah, will
No,
change.
it will not change.
Just checking.
Shut
Just
up.
checking.
I want to make this clear because it's a little confusing. So on everyone that subscribes to this feed has it on their iPhone. That's 65% of our listeners are iPhone users. Whatever feed you're on, you're going to see the name change. It's going to change on your phone. It's going to say Stallone and Friends Fancast Network. I say again, Stallone and Friends Fancast Network. And what's going to happen is the Rocky Minute, they have left their Dueling Genre network. Doug has decided to leave that network and come be a part of the Sylvester Stallone network. Slycast as well, they weren't part of a network, so they're going to join us. And we're all going to be on the same feed. So basically how it's going to sort of work is Monday to Fridays will be Rocky Minute. Saturdays will be Going the Distance. And Sundays will be Slycast. So if you don't want to listen to Rocky Minute, you don't have to. If you don't want to listen to Slycast, you don't have to. And my show, the Going the Distance show that you already listened to on this feed, will continue. But chances are, if you're a podcast listener and you're a Sly fan, a Stallone fan, you're going to love these other guys because you already know these guys because you've already listened to them with our crossover episodes. So there's going to be very few people that only know the cut of their jib because they listen to them. But now it's just all conveniently on one feed. And I think that's going to be good for everybody. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is a budding empire, Ryan, and I suggest listeners that we get in on the ground floor. You don't want to get in on this once it's too big and it's mainstream, right? You want to be the one saying, like, I watched Breaking Bad before it was cool or whatever. Same thing with this one.
You hear that, Kyle?
No, is it a parade going by? Is it what it is?
You hear that parade going by? And so the reason why we're calling it Stallone and Friends, it's not, the Friends means two things. Friends means our listeners, Stallone and Friends, but we kind of want to see ourselves as the Justice League of podcasting in that of Stallone. Stallone's kind of like Superman. And the Friends we're giving a call out. This is an invitation. If anyone who knows of a podcast or who runs their own podcast listens to our show that wants to join our network and join that same feed and cross-pollinate your listeners and build your audience, come join us. I have a couple of podcasts in mind that we're going to reach out to. I don't want to publicly say it, of course. Maybe they're listening, maybe they're not. But yeah, if you're, for example, let's say you run a Steven Seagal. You run a Bruce Willis podcast. You run a Arnold Schwarzenegger podcast. You run a Jean-Claude Van Damme podcast. You run an action film podcast, old or 80s or an 80s podcast. All these things kind of fit into the theme of Stallone, the 80s action films, and that's going to be our goal. Maybe it'll just be us three podcasts, but the idea, just like Kyle was saying, is we want to kind of like bring in these independent podcasters, ham and eggers, people who are just trying to have fun, but if we kind of build each other's audience, I think it'd be a lot of fun for everybody. So that's what we're doing. We're sending out an invitation to all podcasts, hosts or listeners out there who might know of somebody. Send us a message to on Facebook or email of people that you think might want to join this network.
Sounds good.
So it's the Stallone and Friends Fancast Network. Okay, there's that one. Lastly, Kyle, thoughts on Tyson and Evander Holyfield?
Yes. I never did reply to you when you sent me that, but I'm glad you sent me the article because that was the first I'd heard of it.
Oh, wow.
I kind of avoid social media these days a lot. Like I don't go on Facebook very much or Twitter or anything like that, just to get away from all the pandemic stuff all the time. It gets my anxiety going up. So I'm a little more isolated from current events than I normally would be. But I think I knew about Tyson already because that video of him came out sparring like a madman. Like that was that raised a lot of eyebrows. There was a lot of people commenting on that because they couldn't believe how fast he was still.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things you tend to lose when you get older is, you could still have your hard punch, but having your speed, he's not as fast as he was when he was 25, but he still was pretty fast.
Right.
And he hit pretty good. So and I guess now Holyfield, who's older than him, he was 57.
Yes.
They're both doing exhibition matches for charity, which incidentally is how George Foreman started his comeback.
Mm.
I didn't know that till it was in an article I read about this. It seems like they're both sniffing at a real comeback, possibly instead of just doing some stuff for charity. But clearly, anyone would want to see those two together in the ring again.
Can you imagine? Would you watch it?
Oh, of course. That would be something I would. I'd never do pay-per-views or anything like that. That's something I'd either get the pay-per-view for or go to a bar to see. A bar had it.
I would just be interested in seeing them fight younger guys. I don't know. I would be more interested in seeing them both fight other fighters than maybe themselves. Like kind of
Yeah, same.
like. And here's of course people on Twitter are making the comparison with Rocky Balboa Part 6, Stallone or Rocky's come back into the ring at the age of 59. Here we have Holyfield at 57. So we're seeing this is literally people are scoffing at Stallone being 59 filming Rocky Balboa, and now we actually have a 57-year-old, Evander Holyfield, training and looking really good, just like Sly looked good.
Yeah.
To me, age, this is cliche, but age is really just a number. If you can kick somebody's ass, you can kick their ass. If you can't, you can't.
Yeah, but like those guys couldn't fight the way they fought in their 20s and 30s. Like the aging process has done something, but like for George Foreman, for example, what he had in the late stage of his career that he didn't have before is he was able to use strategy and ring smarts.
Right.
Like he had that experience and that fight knowledge, and that's invaluable. Like you can get yourself out of a jam or set some good traps that you wouldn't have been able to do before. So I don't know. Holyfield and Tyson are both like they're not the greatest of all time or anything, but they're frequently cited in the top 10 or at least top 20 greatest fighters.
I wouldn't want to stand toe to toe. I wouldn't want to stand toe to toe.
Oh, especially after seeing. Well, it's funny because one of the comments I made on a previous episode before the Tyson thing came out, or at least before I knew it came out, was that Mike Tyson could be high and drunk and have not worked out in years and been hit by a baseball bat. He'd still be able to beat me up. Like,
yeah,
of course. And now I see him with the sparring. I'm like, oh, no. Not just beat me up, but like crush me in like a half a second. Those quick body shots, I'm like, ouch. I don't know how you could withstand those.
All right, so speaking of Tyson, our last episode we left off with Tarver and Tyson chirping at each other outside the ring.
It's funny, just since Tyson's on there, I'll say, like, Tyson's kind of reinvented himself now. Like, he has his podcast, and he's a lot more chill, and he's, like, he's kind of well-liked, more or less.
Yeah.
But, like, back when this was filmed, Tyson just retired a year before, and he was kind of a joke because he was doing crazy stuff all the time, and, like, it was just unreal. So, like, I was shocked to see him in this. I was like, Mike Tyson, like, who cares about him anymore? But now it's like, Mike Tyson, big deal.
Okay, here we go. So they're about to introduce the fighters, and before we get into the ring announcement of the fighters, they're disrobing here in the ring, Rocky and Mason Dixon. Remember, speaking of AJ Benza, I failed to mention, and people have already messaged me on Twitter and Facebook. Did you ask AJ Benza who he was speaking to when he was talking to his partner at the restaurant table? If he met him in his prime, he would have killed him. He goes, imagine if this bastard met him in his prime.
Yeah. We met this bastard in his prime.
And it's unclear. You and I specifically talked about that, didn't we?
Well, yeah, because like you and I think most other people didn't feel it was unclear. You thought that you were clearly talking about Rocky, which they were.
They were, but I asked the actor who played. Yeah. I said, just settle the dispute because it's enough of unclarity that people are asking.
Yeah.
And he said, no. Yes, he was saying that had Mason and Rocky met each other in their prime, Rocky would murder Mason.
Okay, so it's there's no arguing now. Not only did Sly say it, who wrote it, but the person who performed it.
Right, and I did, and I verbalized that because I failed to ask that during the interview. It was in the back of my mind, but this guy was a freight train of conversation where it just didn't come out naturally, and by the time the interview was over, I was like, oops, I guess so. But I Facebook messaged him, and he answered me right away with, no, it was Rocky would murder Tarver, is what he said.
Nice. You have it in writing even.
I actually have a screenshot of it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. Volume on. Let's get to the disrobing of the fighters. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing black and gold. That's what we're going to hear.
Corner, wearing black with gold. Official weight, 217 pounds. His professional record, 57 victories, including 54 knockouts with 23 defeats and 1 draw.
All right, so his professional record is 57 wins, 23 losses. Now, is that a lot to me?
It is. There's a fact check. I think I fact checked this because the reason you could come up with this exact record is in Rocky 1, when he's walking to the ring, Bill Baldwin or Stu Nahan or one of them says what his record is, and it's very similar to this. It has fewer wins because these wins include his 10 title defenses, his victory over Apollo, over Kleber.
Right.
I don't think it includes the Drago fight because it wasn't sanctioned. Maybe it does. But I'm pretty sure at one point I went to that episode, I wrote down what they said and then added what happened in the film, so it does work out. But yeah, one of the comments they were making in Rocky 1 was they said this record. It says, which makes you question if he has the skill and stamina to go the 3 rounds. Las Vegas odds say no.
Well, yeah, 23 losses seems like quite a bit. But of his 57 wins, 54 of them were knockouts.
Yeah, so like that's because Rocky ain't winning many fights on points, right? And
yeah.
And you look at all of his wins in the films have been by knockout.
I wonder how many times he has. Well, his losses are 23, but I don't think he's ever been knocked out, has he?
Well, Clubber knocked him out.
Oh, right. Of course.
But he did lose against Beanie Crateshaw. Broke both his hands on his face, but that was a good picture, though.
You didn't keep very good care of your picture, though.
Rocky does, though.
Yeah, Rocky does. Rocky does take care of his pictures. That's right.
But yeah, I should go back and do. I'm just gonna make.
Oh, you froze.
Me?
There you go.
Ryan,
You're back.
you can hear me. Okay, so I was just saying, I'm writing this down, and then I'm gonna double check everything. Because this is the kind of stuff that drives me nuts if it's wrong, even though it's really incidental to the film and almost no one would care. To me, it shows like the care the people put into the movie.
Sure.
Make it as real as possible.
He is the fighting pride of Philadelphia.
Did you get it? Sorry, I kept.
Oh, I wrote it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna have to go back to Rocky.
Heavyweight champion of the world, the Italian stallion, Rocky.
So kind of a callback here. They showed the Lucky Tavern.
Yes, so this looks exactly like Rocky 1 when he's fighting.
Yes.
It's the exact same tavern, although it's not, but it's supposed to be.
And we get the feeling that this shot that we're looking at is we're the TV looking at the bar.
Yeah, and so the TV's in the same spot still.
Right.
Yeah.
Hope he gets his head buzzed.
Okay, so this guy here says, I hope he gets his head busted. Now, this is the guy that Rocky manhandled because he was calling Little Marie here kind of a whore outside the tavern when they had their...
Yeah, and he called Rocky a punch-drunk, goofy bastard. Which...
You punch-drunk, goofy bastard. But we talked about that, how... He wasn't. I can't remember the exact dialogue, but I remember when I was reading the captions, he basically called Little Marie kind of a player on the field there, woman.
Yeah.
I don't think he said I don't think he said slut, but he was saying.
Do you know the story behind the actor here?
This guy?
Yeah.
For real?
It's in one of the deleted scenes. Yeah, I'm serious.
Okay.
Or how he got in this film. So I guess they were doing auditions, and his wife auditioned for someone, and Rocky didn't pick her, but then her husband came to pick her up, and this guy's a roofer in Philadelphia, and Sly saw him and said, "Hey, would you like to audition for this role? I think you'd be really good for it." And then he got it, and then he's in a Rocky film.
That's awesome.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's
Hope he gets his head busted. Maybe we could try to find him and talk to him. See how his time on the set was. Get manhandled by Sly there.
yeah, exactly.
There you go. If he's not too busy, if his head hasn't gotten too big for us, and this is the girl here that you think you're better than us. You're not gonna buy us a drink.
Is it just me, or does she look better here than when she saw us?
She does look better. Yeah, maybe she's smart enough.
Yeah, maybe she's like her self-esteem's gone up a bit or something like that. I don't know. Or maybe she's like disassociated with these people a little bit more.
Yeah, because she doesn't look as thrilled by maybe associating with this guy right now.
Yeah, and she's got to give him some lip now too.
Shut up.
Yeah, see, that's right. She's changing her ways. That's right. That's right.
Little Marie Part 2.
That's right.
Next Generation. She's
Look at
the Pepsi of Little Maries.
Look at Paulie. He's got a cigar in his mouth in the ring.
Yeah, of course. That's his brand.
Talk about life coming.
He's probably a certain brand of cigar too. It's like a product placement or something.
It's weird to talk about life coming full circle. Spider Rico's in the corner.
Yeah, this bother. It still bothers me that like Spider Rico is involved. Like you're such an incidental character and inconsequential person in the Rocky films, but now he's like this huge part of Rocky's life. Like I'm like, to me, that's a bit of cheap nostalgia. I don't know.
It is a little bit. It's kind of, yeah, having Spider Rico in the ring. Yeah, it is kind of. It's a real big callback to the first movie. It's incredible.
Thank God
like,
he doesn't make stupid references though. Like, thank God he's like, okay, Rocky, just don't headbutt. You know, they get really mad when you do that or something. Like
yeah.
They were smart enough not to have that.
So, what do you think? How does Sly look?
He looks amazing. He's in really good shape. You see, he has a six-pack. He's very muscular. He looks like a heavyweight,
Yeah.
unlike some of the previous films. And for 59, however old he is here,
Yes.
59.
Yeah.
He looks amazing. Yeah, like if any 59-year-old want to look that good, he looks like he's technically in better shape than Tarver is.
Yeah, that's one of the things about this film that we talked about this at the very beginning of the season, and I don't think you were on just yet as the new guest host. That one of the miscasting, because when even with Tommy Gunn had a build. He was strong, he was big, he was muscular. Of course, Drago, Clubber, Apollo. So all of Rocky's opponents had always been. We know it's movies, but even when you look at Evander Holyfield in his prime, he was a beast of a guy.
God, yeah,
Yeah.
With him, yeah, no, like people thought Holyfield was on steroids.
Oh, was he?
No, I've heard people say that. I don't know how common of belief that is, but I think I know why though. I think actually Dixon is not a bad cast here because the disparity now is not muscle tone as much as it's just age, right? Because before Rocky's opponents were all fairly similar age to him.
But what I'm getting at is, how should I say this? They're walking the fine line between making this seem realistic. So in reality, Tarver's a boxer. He's won a belt. He has in his own right. He's earned his own legacy in his weight class and the circuit that he boxed in. He's got belts. Like, he's a winner. And this is what a real life winner looks like. That's great. But what he isn't is a Rocky Universe boxer. And the problem when you see Tarver is like you recognize, okay, this is but that's not, like you're saying, that's not what boxers really kind of look like. A lot of them don't.
No, that's right. That's true. Like there's cosmetic shape,
Yes,
which Stallone is in.
that's right.
I don't know his actual abilities. I'm sure they're excellent especially to the normal person. I'm talking about in the context of like professional athletes, people who are doing this for real, right?
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is like there was the aesthetic part of the film where I admit how should I say, it's like if you're watching here you go. Sports Illustrated does a swimsuit shoot, okay? To show off the new line of swimsuits. We get it. But we know what we're looking at. We're looking at a beautiful woman in swimsuits. They're in a magazine. We recognize that these are real females in real bathing suits, but there's a part of us that knows that these are not the people that we see at the beach.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah,
see
okay, yeah.
we don't see these females, one after another at this level of beauty and cosmetic makeup and shapes at the beach.
Yeah.
So
You have to be an owner of a beauty pageant and walk through the change room as an excuse to do something like that.
So, within the context of the movie, it's entertainment, and so they kind of went a little bit too. I guess there's me, and I'm not saying I want to look at chiseled men on screen, but in a way, I kind of do. Like I want to see another opponent that looks cosmetically threatening to the same way that Victor Drago in Creed 2, the actor that played him.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. He
Yeah.
is a beast of a man.
Okay, so
Yeah, anyways, that's where I think Tarver falls. No offense to Tarver as an individual, he's an athlete. He's a real life athlete who's won real life championships. ... In the Rocky movie cinematic universe, it just felt out of place.
and they do mention this in the film. It doesn't look like he's in that great a shape. Like that's written in there, so like that is something they've thought of.
So I'm not off my rocker here.
No.
But that's what's crazy is they're
I'll
actually
say-
speaking to a real. This is his real. Like, can you imagine Tarver? This is his like. They're actually pointing out the fact that I don't look like a 59-year-old Sly.
But he's, you know what? Like fighters are not in perfect shape all the time either, right? Like you do a camp, you go into camp pretty in shape, but then it's like you come out of camp like looking good, right? Because you've put weeks and weeks and weeks into like just training, and that's the fighter you see is right after camp when they're fighting. And like Tarver probably filmed this when he wasn't in camp. Like I think I was reading, like he fought at light heavyweight, so like up to 175, which is not heavy. But then when he wasn't training or wasn't fighting, he was like well over 200 pounds. So he probably filmed like during that time, right?
Yeah, I think we talked about that. Yeah. Okay, so Rocky looks out to little Marie. She's out in the crowd. She's looking at him like, "You've got this, Rocky. You can do this, Rocky. Look." She's looking great too on fight night.
Oh yeah, she's looking really good.
Across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing white with blue, official weight 221 pounds. He has a perfect professional record consisting of 33 bouts, 33 victories, including 30 knockouts, originally from Tampa, Florida, but now fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, the reigning, undisputed, undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, Mason the Line Dixon.
All right, so there
You
you
have
go.
the mixture of booze in there when they called Dixon's name.
Well, remember he's not liked by the public.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you should have that.
All right, so they're about to be called in. So he's 33-0, so he's undefeated.
And I just want to acknowledge the presence of Stitch, who's Mason's cut man. This guy is like he's the cut man for all the real big fighters out there in real life, both boxing and UFC.
Oh, okay.
He's like really well known, but it's cool that he's in this movie. Kind of gives it some legitimacy.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, just like the Rocky 1 had the first Rocky and the second Rocky, I think, had the
Yeah, Al Savani was up there till the third one.
third one. That's right, he was. That's right. He was
Yeah.
he was in the Thunderlips fight. That's right as well. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. All right, Mason, Rocky, we went over the rules of the dressing room. I expect a good, clean fight. Watch your kidney punches, rabbit punches. Those low blows, be careful with those, all right? Give me good sportsmanlike conduct. Remember, gentlemen, I'm fair, but I'm firm.
So I like how they film this because it looks like a real HBO fight. The definition of the camera is different than film for film's camera. Yeah, it looks digital and looks more raw.
They have Joe Cortez as ref, and he's legit. He's big ref. He's
Yep.
in like most of the big fights. So
I'm firm but I'm fair. That's how I parent. I'm firm but I'm fair.
Come on.
Enjoy the ride. Champ is not in the best shape we've seen him in.
There you go. The champ is not in the best shape we've seen him in. And he also, Mason says to Rocky there, enjoy the ride, he says to Rocky. So kind of like, welcome to my playground, welcome to the circus. You enjoy your little time in the ring after being away from it for 20 years.
yeah, it's condescending, and it's also telling Rocky he's in control.
Yeah. There you
He's
go.
like, I'm running things in here, just so you know.
So the commentator says maybe Mason just plans to phone this one in.
He just plans to phone this one in and go home early. That wouldn't be a surprise.
Love you, kid. Glad you can make it.
One thing about Rocky.
So Rocky hugs Robert, says, love you, kid. Glad you can make it. You know, that was a nice little moment. Robert's looking at his dad like, oh, gee, that was nice.
I think that's the first time he said I love you. That's
What
an odd time, but
So we'll talk. Well, you know what? We'll talk about it when we talk about Creed. But just food for thought because I don't want to run this too long here because we want to get halfway through the fight here. We've already recorded for an hour. What happened between the end of this fight? Because and then them not talking to each other. In the
well, I think maybe he got. It sounds like he banged a chick from Vancouver, and then she brought him back there. Maybe she didn't want to. She didn't want to live in Philly, and then he's like, you know what? A fresh start would be nice. Because as much as you love Dad, there's other things you love a lot more.
We'll talk about that. We'll investigate that.
I'm so glad, Ryan, they did not say home team at that moment.
No, can you imagine? Well, he did actually say home team during this film. We talked about that. There was the one callback to Rocky V in this film. The home team part, yeah.
Home team. But luckily they were gentle with that. Like, they keep rubbing that in your face the whole movie.
Well, I've had people say there's no connection between Rocky V and Rocky, but which is insane. There is, because there's a whole reason why he's not a rich. There's a whole reason.
Yeah.
I know.
That's like no, you can't say they're not related.
Sure, this guy's showing up in shape.
Little man's crazy.
Yeah, well, he's got to be crazy. He's in here.
Okay.
You just take it easy. This is an exhibition, all right?
All right.
Do it to him.
All right, so Marvin is telling Mason Dixon, you know, he might be crazy because Mason says, "Oh, this old man is crazy to play with me in an exhibition fight." But Marvin's like, "Yeah, it's an exhibition fight, so don't destroy him, don't embarrass him, but take care of business." And it's
Do you think he knows that like Rocky could like mess him up?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to protect this fighter too, but that's why he's saying like, take care of business, but
Got 3 rounds to set a pace. Now, every time you hit him, you got to make a dent.
Got it.
Now you got Tony saying 3 rounds, set a pace. So every time you hit him, make a dent, make it count when you do hit him.
Yeah, because he knows Rocky's not going to be winning on points here, right? He knows Rocky's not going to get a lot of shots in, so if you're going to get a shot in, make sure it does damage.
All right, the fight's about to begin. They're about to throw their first punches at each other.
The moments before a Rocky Balboa fight, I can't believe it's here. Round 1 begins. If old George Foreman shocked the world with one punch, why can't old Rocky Balboa?
So there you go there, the commentators talking about, if old George Foreman could shock the world with one punch, why couldn't Rocky Balboa? Now, why can't Tyson and his name escapes me.
Oh, Holyfield.
Yeah, thank you, boy. Sorry, it's 11:30 tonight for me. For those who are watching, Holyfield and Tyson. So they just mentioned that Foreman did it in his later years. Why not Rocky? And now I'm just saying in real life today, as of this recording, we have 2 more ex-champions coming back to the ring.
And I'll point out that if you want to see an interesting fight, look up Holyfield fight George Foreman.
Oh,
when
okay.
George Foreman was old. So you'll see a young, spry Evander Holyfield punch the living daylights out of George Foreman, but that fight was actually fairly close because Foreman, when he did hit Holyfield, hit him with some bombs. And Holyfield someone asked him like how hard what's the hardest you've been punched? And he said when George, and this is someone who's fought Mike Tyson who has amazing power. He says when George Foreman punched me, I thought he knocked all my teeth out. Like I asked my corner man, did he knock all my teeth out? Just
Wow.
Foreman's incredibly strong.
Who won that fight?
Yeah. Holyfield won on points.
I won on
the
points.
decision.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But he was like, it's brutal. He's hitting Foreman with everything hard.
So
for like 12
so there you go.
rounds.
So Foreman, like Rocky, just wouldn't go down.
It's not happening.
Interesting.
As much excitement as there is in the arena, there's a sense of foreboding as well. And now, Mason the Line Dixon goes to work with his jab as though he's fighting against the #1 challenger in the heavyweight division.
See, this is to be expected early on. You knew the champ was going to control the distance with his jab, his height, his range.
So we're kind of seeing this already, like most of the Rocky fights, is Rocky's taking some hits, taking his time, and you can almost feel like a big punch is coming.
Yeah, and this is copying the first fight.
Yes.
Where Apollo's dancing and circling around him, throwing jabs.
Yeah.
And I disagree with something the HBO commentator said.
Yeah.
Which I learned his name, but then I forgot.
Which is of no use of this recording. Continue.
Yes. He was saying Mason's acting like he's fighting the #1 challenger. I disagree with that.
Okay.
I don't think Mason's taking it too seriously.
No, it was not a comment. I think it's just again trying to get us as an audience to envision that Mason's taking it serious, that what Rocky's experiencing is a serious fight here, not just an exhibition maybe.
Yeah.
Balboa looking to get in a shot, misses wildly.
So Rocky goes in for a big swing but misses completely, and he's pissed at himself for looking foolish, I think.
Yeah, or that he's not performing at the level he wants to perform at.
It looks like a speed bag against a punching bag.
Now Rocky's understandably frustrated. He came out of retirement to get into a fight.
Guys named Rocky don't like to be toyed with. One punch can still turn it around.
Apparently he forgot his arthritis meds this morning.
So there you go. Who's that guy with the cankerous?
Larry Merchant.
Yeah. Apparently he forgot his arthritis meds. Again with the old jokes.
Exactly how he is too. He's very cantankerous.
I'd love to see that guy step in the ring and take on Rocky.
Wow, if he was 30 years younger, he could have beat Floyd Mayweather.
Of course.
So says Larry Merchant.
Rocky misses. There's a meat-seeking missile on the point of the chin by the champ. 4 pinpoint jabs by Dixon. And there's a hard right hand and a left and a right by Balboa.
So Rocky's got a couple punches in now. The crowd's cheering Rocky. Yeah, he drives Dixon to the ropes.
Sorry. You can see the look on Dixon's face too as he's getting punched. Like you could see this what the hell face. Like I don't think he's probably first shocked that Rocky's actually going for him hard like that, and then two, and he'll say this later, but Rocky's punching way harder than he was expecting.
Yeah.
Maybe he hasn't been punched that hard ever. It could be like that Holyfield moment with Foreman where he says that this guy knocked my teeth out.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah, well, there you go. Mason's in for a rude awakening that Rocky's punch is legendary. He's about to feel it.
Drives Dixon into the ropes with a series of shots. And the crowd goes for Dixon punishing Balboa for the temerity of landing those shots.
So a lot of those punches are landing that we're seeing here, and they wanted to make sure when they did the filming or the sound effects of this that they actually had punching sounds and not the over-the-top type of action film punching sounds. These sound a little bit more thud-thud-thud instead of the boom-boom of like Rocky 4 and 3.
Which I love this. To me, the more real you can make it, the better.
It's toe-to-toe in the corner. Balboa and Dixon letting it all go.
So here, right at the end of the fight, of course, you see Rocky just kind of turn up a little bit, old school, just sort of swatting at Dixon fast, like do. Like we see kind of that. You can almost in your mind hear that war theme kicking in, the Rocky war theme.
Yeah, and it's interesting the way Dixon's handling himself here. Like you see him understandably turn it on once Rocky punched him, right? It's probably because he's pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
And two, like he realizes, it's probably not good to just toy with him like this. Like he can actually punch hard. So I'm going to show him who's boss. But then, like, he kind of makes the same mistake Apollo made in Rocky 2 and sometimes in the first fight, where he punches his out with him, like almost out of pride. Like right at the end of this round here, he has Rocky in the corner and they're trading shots, right? And so with someone with a reach like his and the speed, you're stupid to trade shots with someone who punches hard like Rocky Balboa. But it seems like he's just he's doing it because he doesn't want to be backing off ever.
Yeah.
Especially to someone like Rocky who he doesn't respect.
So the bell rings, end of round 1.
Balboa landing potent combinations to the head of the champion. A wake-up call for Dixon.
I'm all right, yeah. Man's got bricks in his door. What happened to the angry stuff in the basement? It's still there.
So Paulie asks, what happened to the angry stuff? And Rocky's like, it's still there. And then in Mason's corner, it was said, Mason said, it looks he's got bricks in his gloves. So kind of saying his punches are heavy.
Yeah, he's he doesn't know the last thing that goes in someone is their punch, apparently. Or he doesn't know much background on Rocky, which would be surprising. But yeah, Mason, according to the storyline here, has been fed cream puffs or like subpar fighters.
Yeah.
So he might have been punched there harder than he's ever been punched. Like it might be kind of taking he's getting punched at that next level that he's never experienced, and it's probably a bit of a disillusionment for him.
Yo, well, he came to battle, okay? Listen to me. If there's any bone in your body he can break, he's gonna do it. His bone all right, give the man a little respect. What about my respect?
Rocky box.
All right, so Mason's trainer is seeing, okay, Rocky is punching. He's come here to punch. He's an old-time trainer. He's been in the business a long time. He knows Rocky's history. So he's telling Mason right now, okay, look, dude, if you have a bone in your body that he can break, he's going to try to break it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, see, Mason is just like, he reminds me of Apollo so much. Like,
yeah.
Like, like when...
Black?
When he's like, oh, yes. There was something. Everyone looks the same.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry. When Tony's telling Apollo, like, don't let up on this man. This man is dangerous, and he's like, I'm dangerous. I'm dangerous.
Yeah, this is happening here. What about my respect?
Like, I could break his bones.
Yeah.
And he needs to respect me. And
yeah.
It's really borrowing from both the Rocky 1 and 2 fights.
Sure, it's drawing on what the formula that worked before.
Yeah, well, exactly, and thus it should. Like, I have no issue with that.
Tell the grisly story here. Balboa landed 9 of 13 punches in that round. Dixon landed an incredible 59 out of 69.
Are you listening to me?
Rocky's been here a million times before. Coming out to start another round after he took a beating in the previous one.
So now Mason just said, I warned him. Meaning, I told him, if he comes punching at me, I'm going to come punching back. So now we're led to believe that he's going to turn on his young championship self to lay this old man out. He said, if you're trying to embarrass me, I'm going to lay you out. Now this is what's coming now.
And this is just like round 2 in the first fight. Apollo sticks and moves, and for the better part of that round, over half, he has Rocky's number.
Well, he's tired. His legs are going fast or already gone.
And what's truly extraordinary is that Rocky can still take it.
The Boxing Commission, which remember was criticized for licensing him, would be massacred if something happened to Rocky.
And we talked about that before, that the Boxing Commission's legacy or legitimacy might be on the line here if
totally.
If Rocky gets injured because of this fight.
Yeah, that's why they didn't want to do it in the first place. So yeah, it's like.
They also mentioned that Rocky's legs might already be giving up a little bit here.
Yeah, I think that is kind of happening, but I think, you know, people see what they want to see too, right? So if they're expecting his legs are going to go out, any sign of that, they're going to jump all over that.
Fair, yeah.
And the monstrous straight left hand. Down goes Rocky.
So a big left hand there from Mason puts Rocky on the canvas. So Rocky goes down.
And not gracefully either.
No,
he does it's an ugly knockdown.
Yeah, it is.
A face plant into the ground. It's embarrassing for him, right?
And down goes Rocky, and that could be the end of the fight, they say.
And that could conceivably be the end of the fight. That could be the exhibition right there, but no. Balboa up. As referee Joe Cortez asks if he wants to continue, and Rocky says yes.
Even Rocky Balboa could be too brave for his own.
All right, so he goes. Cortez asked him, "Do you want to continue?" Rocky said, "Yeah, I'll keep fighting."
Yeah, good old Joe Cortez. He's not quite the Lou Filippo who is like, "Guys, your heart's still beating." Yes. Okay, get back in there.
It ain't over till it's over.
Yeah, literally.
Dixon comes right back to try to finish it. Balboa almost went down.
Rocky actually shoves Dixon down.
As Dixon lands these brutal shots. Open shots at close range, right and left hands, and down goes Balboa.
So Rocky gets hit on the ground again. Does this fight stop now in real life?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Especially if it's an exhibition like this. They might have stopped it after that first knockdown. Probably not, but that second one where between two knockdowns he just got massacred like that.
Right, but it continues because this is the Rocky film.
Yeah, they're like, you're not dead. Keep going.
You ain't quite dead yet. I'm not quite dead yet. I'm actually feeling better. I think I can get up and walk now. For my UK listeners, I can't do British accents. Sorry. So even the commentators are saying he got knocked down to the canvas again, maybe for the last time in his fighting career. It's kind of an interesting thought.
Yeah, he's he's grabbing the rope out of desperation here. I remember seeing that for the first time and really feeling a lot of empathy for him. I felt sorry for him as he was grabbing that rope.
Sure.
He really kind of draws you in to cheer for Rocky after that.
So we got Little Marie yelling, "Get up, get up!" Kind of like Marianne Creed did in Rocky 2 when she yells, "Get up!"
Oh yeah. When Paulo gets knocked out.
So they're already at the 8 count. It's really close. He's at the 8 count. And he's still got 2, or at least 1 more rope to get up. But he gets up. Or spoiler alert. Okay, let's watch.
Yeah.
How you feel, man? You okay?
I just noticed. See, maybe my sound was off there because for some reason on your thing, it's showing the video and sound a little out of alignment. But from what I saw, it looked like Rocky's still bent over trying to get up.
I know
they're like, "Are you okay? Or you still want to continue?"
Yeah. And it says Rocky's furious with himself, and he convinces Cortez he wants to keep fighting. Do they continue it a little bit longer because it's an exhibition? Is that the mentality? No harm, no foul.
No, I don't think so. Seriously, they in this case, Joe Cortez would have been no.
Right.
If you got up, you just got knocked down, and you get knocked down 5 seconds later, and you get up on the 10, basically. Chances are, if he looked even a little bit out of it, I'm sure they would have waved him off.
Cortez, he wants to keep fighting.
Dixon's pointing at the ref to end it. Rocky waving his arms and saying he's fine. He wants to go on.
Let it go.
Now Tony's time to let it go. A little bit different than when he told Apollo, "Let it go."
Yeah.
Let it go.
Okay, I gotta say something there.
So Tony, before you do it, so Tony's saying here, "Let it go." He means to let it out. Start pounding on him. Let it all out of you. Let it go.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say?
Okay, this is a total off-topic thing, so you can cut this if you want. But whenever I'm like can't let something go in my head, I hear Tony's voice saying like, "Let it go, let it go. You're the chap." And it never works. I never let it go.
It's all wrong for us, baby.
I feel like since I'm a kid, that always goes in my head. If I can't let something go, he tells me to let it go. I'm like, just like Apollo, I just completely ignore him and don't let it go.
No, it's good. I like it.
Balboa comes up with a left and a right and pulls Dixon into the ropes for the second round in a row. And back comes Dixon with brutal left-hand shot.
Dixon hurt his hand there.
This is Rocky.
So it looks like Dixon might have cracked his left hand on Rocky's stomach or ribs. And Tony sees this, and Tony says, like a shark smelling blood and water, Tony says, go after him.
Yeah, like you're never, ever going to have a chance like that. I think this is ingenious writing here for Dixon to crack his hand. Because, like, if you didn't have that happen, either Dixon knocks Rocky out shortly after this, or you have Rocky inexplicably come back and beat Dixon, or just take an unrealistic beating. Like, there's no really good way to go here where it's believable. But like, when you put the broken hand into the equation, and the fact that the hand will numb up in 3 rounds, so it gives Rocky like a chance, that makes it exciting, and it also makes it a little more believable. Like, whoever thought of that, like, that was really good.
Well, that's good. All right, so let's see what Rocky does with that broken hand. Or with Mason's broken hand.
His best chance right here, the champ obviously just turned his hand on Rocky's hip.
And Balboa immediately going to run to the body.
Huge right hook.
So he gets about 20 or 10 or 15 like undefeated shots. You always feel bad for Dixon because he can't really block with his hand.
Yeah, and I think in real life, and I'm not 100% sure on this, they may have stopped the fight with his hand being broken like that. In like, it might have been like a no contest or something.
Okay.
Yeah, like I don't think, I could be wrong on this, but I don't think it's normal for you to break their hand and it's obvious that he broke his hand. That they'll be like, yeah, you can keep fighting.
Right.
Just go for it. No big deal. Just punch it with the left hand. Wave
Ripping away at Dixon's body. These are big punches.
So now Mason has gone down. Rocky did, like I said, 15 shots. And then the last 3 were 1, 2, 3 in the side of the ribs, which is Rocky's going for the meat type punches. And literally knocked the wind out of Mason. He fell to the canvas, winded.
Honestly, though, out of all the Rocky fights, now I believe there's a couple exceptions here in his 10 title defense shots. That's the first body punch knockdown I've ever seen. Usually the knockdowns from the hit to the head in the Rocky films.
It would have happened in Rocky Part 1 had that another 20 seconds been on the bell.
He would have won that fight.
Yes.
Like they probably would have stopped. Okay, they would have stopped the Rocky 1 when he was down in the 14th. But if they let him up for some reason, they would have stopped it when Apollo was splitting blood.
Yeah.
Lou Filippo's like, it's all good. Ryan, I noticed your pause location is a little bit suspect here.
My pause?
Like, I don't know what you see in your screen, but like you pause the film like directly under his boobs.
I didn't realize that. Okay, that's funny. Oh yeah. All right, so Mason falls to canvas. Of course, the bar goes crazy, the crowd goes crazy, and then when they get to the corners, we'll stop it there.
Rocky Balboa has knocked the reigning heavyweight champion down.
You heard him, Rocky!
Mason
Steps yells out, "You heard him, Rocky! You heard him!"
He's not a machine. He's a man. Take it to him.
And the commentator says here, Mason Dixon has never taken this kind of punishment in his entire career.
Yeah, Yeah, it's reminiscent of like Apollo's Never Been Knocked Down.
Yeah, it's definitely drawing from the same spirit of part one.
Yeah, I like it though. I think that's good. Like, I don't think that like. I don't think it's fair to criticize that. You could if you want to, but it's like, I think most people when they see this movie see it for what it is.
Yeah,
and
it's a bow on the.
It's linked to the first.
It's the same way the first one ended. This one, it's a bow. It's a bookend to his life.
Yeah, exactly.
And Dixon has never taken this kind of punishment in his entire professional career.
Maybe he's clearing his head, guys, but the body shots really caved in his ribs.
Balboa is thinking knockout himself.
Another counter hook by Balboa, followed by 2 more.
Dixon fires back his own hooks. Now Rocky's stunned.
It's an all-out war along the fight as round 2 comes to a close amid a giant tumult in the ring.
There we go. So you hear the war music kick in, and the guy actually says, "An all-out war along the ropes." And now you can hear Bill Conti's war theme kicking in here.
That was probably one of the best Rocky rounds.
Yeah.
Honestly, I loved that. Like, I remember the first time I saw that fight in movie. Subsequent times, like, that is a great round. I think, if not the best, I'm pretty sure it's the best round of the fight, really.
Yeah.
But it's one of the better rounds in like the Rocky universe. I think, like, it's up there. I don't know if it's the best, but it's pretty good.
Well, we're gonna stop it there. This is part one of the final fight of Rocky's career, and we didn't want to rush it either. But we're at the part now where the war theme's kicking in, and then we're gonna basically, next episode will pretty much, I would say our next recording, Kyle, will be the end of Rocky Balboa as a commentated movie.
I almost don't want to record it, Ryan. I just want it to keep going on forever.
Will it always be like this?
Maybe that's why he wrote the Greg wrote it.
Yeah. There's our humor. Yeah, that was it's great. I'm looking forward to seeing how this fight ends.
Rocky's gonna win by knockout.
I guess with the episode, well, we'll talk later about what we'll do after. But before we we'll have one episode between. Put it this way for our listeners, we're gonna have at least one episode between, Rocky Balboa and Creed 1. We're gonna do a tie-up of we were talking about how we're gonna do the deleted scenes, and so we'll make that a one episode, and then we'll go into Creed 1. So basically, we got this episode, part 2 of the fight, and then deleted scene discussion, and then Creed 1. Wow.
I'm excited for Creed 1. I don't know. You might not be excited, but I am.
Look, I like the we'll talk about it. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Remember, if you want to donate on Patreon, donate as low as $1. If you donate just $1, one of our Patreons, I won't say his name, Seiko. If you want to, he's a Patreon. He's listening. If you want to donate $1, just donate $1. Like, seriously, $1. That's what's $1 divided by 30 days. It's 3 cents a day, right? 3.3 cents.
More or less. Well, it'd be like 3.3 repeating.
Yeah, $1 gets you the same. $1 gets you the same as everything. So everything counts. We know times are tough with COVID and all that stuff. So we appreciate what people do. But what it gives you is this live coverage. If that's something that you want to be a part of, $1 will get you 3 to 4 to 5 live video recordings and seeing the movies as Kyle and I talk about it. So that might be the perk that you want to come over. That might be all you want. We would love to have you. Or just, again, it throws a couple dollars away to say thank you for
$1 a month.
$1.
Save a starving Canadian podcast.
Yeah.
Quebec. They'll be like, you should have a picture of you with like flies landing on you and shit.
Oh, man.
Just $1 a month.
So if you want to send us an email, gtdwithrr@gmail.com. Follow Kyle on Twitter. Follow us on the Facebook page. We look forward to working with Craig and Doug and anyone else that wants to join the Stallone and Friends podcast network. We're going to be plugging that every episode because we're going to become a network. We're all Sly fans, action movie fans, and we're just a bunch of nerds geeking out on these films. We appreciate you coming along. Kyle, do you want to take us out?
Ding, ding.
All All right, I stop recording now.